Hello, welcome to Friday's ESPN FC Live. My name's Mark Donaldson, alongside Luis Miguel Echegaray and Rob Dawson. LME, how are you?
I'm good. I just realized, MD, I've got not little time to do my fantasy, so let's get this going.
Oh, yeah, deadline 1:30 today because Burnley are playing or whatever. Rob, have you done your fantasy team this weekend?
I've just done it, just before I nipped on here. I'm all sorted.
Who's the captain?
This week?
Yep.
John McGinn.
Come on.
Go on, Rob Dawson.
Just because LME's on, who's the real captain?
No, I'm telling you, you come back to me next week when you're hailing me as a fantasy football genius. You just wait.
Okay. Let's
I
park
thought as a proud Scotsman, you would approve of that.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be so ecstatic about this, MD. Super John McGinn, better than Zidane.
Look, let him win the Euros with Scotland. I'm in a league with Dan Thomas. I cannot be putting captain's armbands on John McGinn. By the way, I'll bow to you next week if that comes in. Good luck with that.
Never speak of it again.
Yeah, exactly. If it never happened, let's not speak of it again in this show. And tell you what's coming up in the next half hour or so. We're going to preview the Premier League games. I say this weekend. Game week 21 begins today and ends October or something like that. It's stretched forever. But we will preview Newcastle against Manchester City. We will also preview Manchester United against Spurs very shortly. That'll be first on the agenda. Also, later on, we'll be joined by Ed Dove to look ahead to AFCON 2023 in 2024. That begins this weekend in the Ivory Coast. Looking forward to that. Loads of big names are playing. And also, it's the Spanish Super Cup final. It's El Clasico, Real Madrid against Barcelona out in Saudi Arabia. Samuel Marsden will join us later on in the show. But before we get back to Rob and to LME, I want to hear from Erik ten Hag as we begin our preview of the Premier League this weekend with Manchester United against Spurs at Old Trafford on Sunday. Now, Casemiro's back training. Martinez is back training, and so is Luke Shaw. But could any of them start? Erik ten Hag will tell us.
This week in the training, so last couple of days, where Licha Martinez training, Casemiro training, Luke Shaw training. So yeah, there are players returning, and yeah, they are coming in for selection for Sunday. So Eriksen was ill in the week; he will return. Anthony will return. I thought you mentioned longer terms and unexpected, but they will return as well. So Ahmad will return. So yeah, we have more choices in this moment in the squad to make to put out a start 11 and to create a bench stronger.
Okay, Rob, you were at Ten Hag's press conference. What's the mood in the camp?
More positive, I would say, than it has been the last couple of weeks. Not necessarily because of results or performances, but the injury list clearing is a big thing. You know, you've got Ten Hag there talking about Casemiro and Martinez and Shaw. They're three massive players. I mean, Martinez hasn't played since September. Casemiro hasn't played since the 1st of November. They're two massive players that have been taken out of the dressing room. There are still injury problems. There's no Maguire, there's no Mount, Lindelof, Marshall. None of them will be available to play Spurs on Sunday. But there is just that sense maybe now that this long injury list that has affected their entire season so far is just starting to clear. You know, maybe Sunday and Spurs will come a bit early for some of them. But there is that sense now that the injury list is starting to get a bit more manageable. And maybe, you know, when you get these players back, that the results will pick up.
LME, what on earth can we expect in this game? Because the last time Spurs won there, Man United took the lead back in 2020 and then conceded 6. Any result is possible in this one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tricky one, MD, because we're talking about a match that's coming in a very tricky January month where, you know, we've just gone after a grueling December period with 7 or 8 matches, of course. And as Rob was mentioning, players are coming back from injury, and that's just not from Manchester United's perspective. I mean, when you look at Tottenham, of course, Heung-min Son is out for Asia Cup. James Maddison remains on the sidelines. But right now, Tottenham are probably feeling very, very confident. I think that right now they're winning the January transfer window. Obviously, it's early days. It was the first one from Young and Lange, the director who left Aston Villa joined Tottenham. Of course, we know about Timo Werner and what he can do on loan from RB Leipzig. I think he's going to start straight away. So Richarlison in the middle and Brennan Johnson on the other side. So, there's already action going on. And Dragusin, who's a very physical, very strong 21-year-old centre-back, Romanian centre-back. So they're already adding pieces and people are coming back. So just like United expecting players to come back from injury, the same is going on with Tottenham. But like you said, this is a very difficult one to predict for a few reasons. One of them being philosophy, actually, because, Postecoglou's all-out aggressive system, will be an interesting recipe against Erik ten Hag's counter-attacking plan. So I don't dare just yet at the beginning of this show tell you a scoreline, but I expect goals for sure, because even though players are coming back, there's still vulnerabilities on both sides.
Was there not a song, Rob? A great philosopher once said, naughty, naughty, very naughty, or will we not go down that route? So with players coming back, Romero's back for Spurs, Van de Ven's back for Spurs, as LME was mentioned. Dragusin was a good signing as well. And Timo Werner, he's getting his business done nice and early. So LME thinks that Werner will start. Do you?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, they've done it early enough in the week that Werner's come in and had at least a couple of training sessions, which is obviously key for a manager. You can't just sign someone and throw them straight in. They do need to be around their teammates. It seems like Werner's had that opportunity this week, which is good news for Spurs. Obviously there's a lot of talk in England about whether Werner's going to be a good signing or not. Lots of people want to refer back to his goal-scoring record at Chelsea, which was wasn't necessarily prolific. I think 23 goals in 89 games for Chelsea, so not a prolific goal scorer. But the one thing that Werner does have is pace. And if you're a Man United player prepping for this game on Sunday, you don't really want Werner in that team, because defenders hate attackers with pace. They want attackers who are going to do everything in front of them. The type of which, if you were Johnny Evans, say, or Rafa Varane looking at this game, you'd be quite happy with maybe Richarlison. What you don't want is players like Johnson and Werner disappearing over your shoulder in the massive space behind, because that's when defenders start to get really worried. So, as far as United go, I think that they probably don't want to see Timo Werner in that starting 11. I think that Spurs fans have got every right to be relatively excited about the signing of Timo Werner. You listen to Postecoglou today, and he talks about a player who is going to fit very well into his system, suits the style of play that they want to achieve. I think this might end up being quite a good fit for Werner and Spurs.
LME, what about Werner and his traits?
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit from what Rob was talking about, specifically his time at Chelsea. It's correct that it's 23 goals in 89, but there were also 21 assists as well. So, it's not a totally, disastrous experience with Chelsea. But he's right. Like, obviously, Chelsea were relying on him for goals that did not happen, etc. But I think that for Tottenham, there are two key things that are going to be really important for Postecoglou as he's welcomed Werner. And there's a reason why he's there. This isn't just like a surprising, shocking decision. Oh, we need somebody quick. Oh, Werner, maybe. No, this was a careful plan. And one of the reasons is he's going to be on the left wing, on the left side of Richarlison when he comes on. So not everything in terms of goals are going to be relied on him. The Postecoglou system wants you to be a collective, aggressive unit. So that's one given. Rob also talked, and I agree, like he's got high pace, he's energetic, he's aggressive. He fits and ticks all the boxes of what Postecoglou wants. Now, the other component is, what are the negatives? He's not as physical. He won't be that good in the air, of course, but he's going to give you 110% of everything. And that's exactly what you need, especially in the time when Son is in there, James Maddison is in there. So I think this is a good move. It all depends on how to utilize him and to not have all the arrows pointing at him, trying to get him to score the goals. If that is not an issue and it can be collectively shared, then this is a very, very good purchase. And by the way, Werner has a lot to prove, MD, because this is on loan option. So he's probably going to say, I'm coming back to the Premier League and I want to show that it wasn't just about my time at Chelsea.
I just like the fact that Postecoglou's getting his business done nice and early. He's seen what he needs and he's gone and he's got it done, or he's got people to go and do it for him. By the way, taking you back to mid-August when Spurs beat Man United by 2-0. This is them looking to do the league double over United for the first time since Stevie Nicol was playing way back in 1989, 1990. Rob, when you look at Spurs and you saw the start that they got off to, I mean, they were like the fastest greyhound out of the traps. And then they had some injuries and Maddison went down and defensively it became a bit of a problem. And they probably are now where a lot of fans would hope that they were. The expectation level, though, increased exponentially during that start of the season. So as LME and you were both talking about, with Spurs having players coming back, after Son gets back from the Asian Cup as well, can we put them in the title race, or would we just say, let's calm this down, and if they could get a top 4 spot right now, they'd be happy?
Yeah, I think they're probably a little bit short as they are right now. I think it's a huge, not a bonus is the wrong word, a benefit to them that they're not going to play European football.
Yeah.
You know, in the second half of the season, you're going to have the likes of City and Liverpool, Arsenal, all going to be engaged in European competition, playing 3 times in a week, whereas Spurs are going to be playing, you know, every weekend. They're going to have time on the training pitch and time to rest and recover, which is huge in the second half of the season when other players are getting a little bit tired. That said, I still see them as a tier below those top 3 sides, that if they can challenge for the top 4, get into the Champions League next season, I think that would be a massive success for Postecoglou in his first campaign. Obviously, they would like to do better. You know, there is an opportunity there for you know, to go on a winning run. Maybe when you get Maddison back, maybe when Son comes back from the Asian Cup and they're right in and amongst those teams, maybe there's an opportunity then to push on and maybe cause those teams above them a little bit of a problem. Right now, I think that if you offered Postecoglou a top 4 finish and we call the season quits, I think he takes it.
I agree. Just before we get to predictions, one quick question I want to ask you about Erik ten Hag. And we speak every week about his future. I want to take this down a slightly different angle for a second. And with the new 25% stakeholder in the club, if Manchester United signs someone in this January transfer window while Ten Hag's still at the football club, is that then basically saying, you're our guy, you're the one we want to take this player and put him in your team? And can we read it like that, rather than if they don't sign anybody, he might not be sticking around?
I think if they were to sign someone permanently, I think you could make that argument. Okay. I don't think they will sign anyone permanently. I think that if they do sign anyone, it may be the odd loan signing to get him through to the end of the season. I think at the moment what you're seeing is essentially Erik ten Hag is on trial. You know, that there is 2 things that managers or will cost manager his job, and that's poor results or new owners coming in and wanting their own man. And essentially, Ten Hag is dealing with both of those things at the same time. Now, Ineos and Radcliffe have kind of have given the impression that you know they're relatively happy with Ten Hag at the moment, and that while we're in this sort of transition period before their stake gets officially ratified, that Ten Hag will be allowed the time to show that he is the right man for the job. Now, if results aren't going to pick up, and Radcliffe goes away and decides that he wants his own man, then obviously Ten Hag is very, very vulnerable. I think that we're in a situation now where Ten Hag is probably going to get between now and the end of the season to show why he should stay in this job. Yeah. If it was to go completely pear-shaped and the season was just to combust, you know, and they stink down the table, they get knocked out of the FA Cup, I think we could be looking at a case where United are looking for a new manager in the summer. If, though, we can turn things around, if these players coming back, that you see a massive improvement in form, I think maybe that he gets next summer's transfer window and he gets next season. So we'll just have to wait and see. We're talking about a really, really critical period for Ten Hag now. Prediction
time. Rob, you first. Man United Spurs.
I agree with LME. Lots of goals. I can't necessarily see a winner, so I think 2-2.
Okay. Luis Miguel?
That's exactly where I was going. I think it's going to be cool. I think both sides are welcoming players back. Everything is good, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring game with a lot of mistakes, 2-0 as well.
Okay, I think we also might get goals in the Northeast. That's where Rob is heading before we preview Newcastle against Manchester City. Let's hear from Pep Guardiola, who's been delighted to have Kevin De Bruyne back training again.
Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne has been back, made a playing return in the Huddersfield game, obviously coming off the bench. He says doesn't feel like he's going to be starting too many games in the near future as he gets his fitness back. I mean, I know you said after that game it's about training, but is he in a position to start this weekend, do you think?
Yeah.
And do you have any reservations at all, given the fact of the nature of the injury and throwing him in from the start?
I feel really What I see yesterday, I feel really good, dynamic, and the minutes he played was really, really good. Better than the training sessions before the Huddersfield game. Like, it was a little bit not in what he is, but it's normal when you come for the long injury you have. It was 5 months. I thought it was 3, but it was 5. It was a little bit up and lows in the training sessions, in the recoveries, and so on. So this is completely normal. But the important is getting better. Now we have a game. After we have a few days off, he will train a little bit, and after we go all together with the good weather condition to make 4 or 5 training sessions in Abu Dhabi, and that will help to be better for the next games next month.
Now, of course, we're going to talk about Kevin De Bruyne in depth. However, I'm old enough to remember interviewing managers in sheds, and they might be having a sly cigar or something. Now we're getting movable graphics with adverts behind managers. Rob? What's happening?
It's the way of the world these days. City are a cutting edge club. That's what you get these days.
Okay, what's happening at St James's Park? You're headed there. What are you expecting? Goals like at Old Trafford, or something a little bit different in this one?
I'm expecting goals from City, and I'm expecting City to win relatively comfortably. I think we've just spoken there about Ten Hag and United, and momentum in seasons and things, and different and critical periods. It just feels at the moment like the momentum in the title race is shifting all the way back to City again. They've got Kevin De Bruyne back. Erling Haaland will be back soon. They're going to go away to Abu Dhabi to have a nice warm weather training camp in their winter break. On the flip side, you've got Arsenal who are struggling for form. You've got Newcastle who are struggling for form. Liverpool have lost Mo Salah to the African Cup of Nations, and have lost Trent Alexander-Arnold to injury. Everything right now, and I appreciate we're sat here in January, everything right now seems to point to City winning another title. And you can tell by the way that Pep Guardiola is answering those questions that he's starting to feel that confidence again. There was a period a couple of weeks back where he was sort of moaning about his team a little bit, and the results weren't going his way and different things. That's all gone. You can feel, or you can see Pep Guardiola starting to feel like his team are champions again. And we've been here so many times before. It just feels like Groundhog Day. It feels like the momentum has completely shifted back to City. And I think you're going to see that at St James's Park tomorrow. And I think City are going to win a massive away game relatively comfortably.
LME, would you rather be Liverpool 5 points clear of City, or City with a game in hand, 5 points behind, but with the knowledge they've been there before, as Rob was saying, they've done it from this position before? Which position would you rather be in with the squad that they have right now?
Man City, because just like Rob said, football, just like comedy and is all about timing, and everything right now is being timed for Manchester City. Kevin De Bruyne being back is massive. I cannot understate enough. And Rob wrote it beautifully in his piece, because it's good news for City. It's terrible news for everybody else. Liverpool, of course, are ahead and it's looking good, and they did well. But Trent Alexander-Arnold's injury is a big thing. Mohamed Salah, if Egypt go far in Africa Cup of Nations, that's a 6-week absence. Like he accounts for 50% of their goals. I don't care how good Darwin Núñez is playing or Luis Diaz. Like he's a very big player here. So Manchester City, who, by the way, since that loss to Aston Villa, have not lost a game. The Club World Cup, I think, was a really great, I don't want to say vacation. I don't want to, disregard, the other teams, but it was a great opportunity for everybody to come together away from England, away from the Premier League media, and just sort of, reunite. And just like Rob said, Guardiola looks very calm. De Bruyne is back. Haaland is not back, but he should be back very soon. And everything is coming together. So yes, Liverpool right now lead and they've been formidable, but those absences are very, very big. And just like when those players are missing, and Arsenal are not doing well right now as well, and they've got their own issues as well, Man City are the ones that are bringing everybody back. So you have to be almost, if not perfect, to win this Premier League title over Manchester City. And I just don't see it once again. So Man City and Pep Guardiola are looking very happy right now.
Score prediction, LME, for this one?
3-0 Manchester City.
Okay, Rob?
3-1, but very comfortable.
To City. I don't want you coming back next week with a shock Newcastle win and say, I told you so, and you should have captained John McGinn.
You just wait. Super John McGinn. Get me on next.
Super John McGinn, Rob Dawson.
Right. Rob, thank you. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Safe travels up and back. And remember, Rob's written a piece on Kevin De Bruyne for ESPN about his impact And rather than get him to explain it, you can read all about it at espn.co.uk or espn.com. And now, as promised, we're going to look ahead to one of two major tournaments that's taking place, two major international tournaments. It's AFCON. And we're joined, delighted to say, by Ed Dove, who covers African football for ESPN, for Goal, for BBC, for goodness knows where. And of course, it's obvious to everybody with the background that Ed has right now that he is in Belgrade. Hello, Ed. How are you?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me in. I'll hopefully be in Africa soon. Looking forward to the tournament.
I was going to say...
You could have lied, Ed. You could have lied and said you were in Africa already. We would have...
You could have said you're in Abidjan. Okay, what can we expect from this? Because it wasn't originally going to be in the Ivory Coast. It is now. They didn't want it played at a later time because of the wet weather and everything. So it's January, February. And this is what we have. And they kick off the tournament. We'll get into the favourites for the tournament soon. But what chance of the home nation coming up with the goods this year?
Well, I think being the host of a tournament like this, it can be a blessing or it can be a curse.
Yep.
For Ivory Coast, if you start strongly, if you get the win behind you, if you get the fans on side, I think the fans are desperate to really enjoy themselves, which is a good sign. I think if they start well against Guinea-Bissau, then I think Ivory Coast could be reaching the latter stage of the tournament. However, pressure can affect this team. It can affect any team, of course. Ivory Coasts have been known to crumble in past editions of the Nations Cup. And if they start slowly, they've obviously got Nigeria in their group. If that game doesn't go to plan, things could go against them. But a midfield with the likes of Frank Kessie, Seko Fofana, obviously Sebastian Haller leading the line, experience in Serge Aurier. There's talent there, and I think Ivory Coast are going to be a genuine threat in this Nations Cup.
Okay, we've asked you to put together your top 10 that you think have probably got the best chance. Now, the bookies have got Senegal as the favourites, slightly, but Morocco you have as number one in your power rankings, which makes sense because they had that excellent run deep into the World Cup. Why do you think the bookies have got Senegal as favourites, and what do you think sets Morocco apart from the rest of the nations?
First of all, I'm going to admit there wasn't that much in it. And this top 10 has been drafted and redrafted a few times. I got my predictions at the last Nations Cup for ESPN hideously wrong, so I wouldn't put so much stock in this. For me, Morocco just have the unity, the togetherness that we saw during the World Cup. They proved in Qatar they know how to negotiate really elite level knockout competition. There is a tactical maturity, a sophistication about this side. They've got different ways of hurting you, which a lot of teams in Africa, they don't necessarily have. In En-Nesyri, a player who he can be a bit fitful. He hasn't always done it for Morocco, but
He's
actually
not been good this season either for Sevilla. That's the other thing, Ed.
True, but in recent games, like the PSV game, for example, when things come together, he can really be a devastating prospect. And all things being well, he should have service. There are a few caveats because the likes of Hakim Ziyech, the likes of Sofiane Boufal aren't in the best form. They haven't been enjoying the best of times at club level recently. And that is a concern for me. It's a slight caveat for my Morocco prediction. And also the fact that Morocco, I think there's no team who are as big a letdown at the Nations Cup as Morocco. They've reached one semi-final since the 80s. They've not won it since 1976. So they do have a habit of falling short. This year, I just believe that they've got enough to get over the line.
Yeah, I like what Ed said there, MD, about Morocco knew how to negotiate at the World Cup. I agree with that. And I think the difference I feel at AFCON with Morocco is that at the World Cup, you know, against the likes of Spain or Portugal, they were very reactive in a very positive way. They knew how to negotiate, just like Ed said, their way into making a historic run. But at AFCON, the storyline is different because you have to be proactive and you have to tell your own story on the pitch. And I feel that Morocco, and just like Ed said, they haven't won since 1976. It's been a struggle. Sometimes that's an issue, trying to identify who they are. Amrabat, for example, you know, the most recoveries at the World Cup. You know, I don't feel that that's going to be the same story for him at Africa Cup as well. How about what's the kid from Marseille, Azzedine Ounahi, who was fantastic at the World Cup. He has been very disappointing for Marseille. So like all these players, they're not taking precedent, they're not taking protagonist roles at AFCON. So I worry a little bit. There's no doubt about their talent, and it's incredible what they did at the World Cup. But this one, I just don't see them as favored to win it. Obviously, they're favorites, but I don't think they're gonna win it, just because you need to be more proactive. I just don't think they have it.
Oh, Mane and Salah made the headlines last time. That was the final when Senegal beat Egypt on penalties. So we know all about the big names that are going to be there, Ed. What about some of the others that might be worth us keeping tabs on? Who have you got for us?
The player I'm most excited, the single player I'm most excited about watching in action is Lamine Camara of Senegal. He was named CAF Young Player of the Year at the recent CAF Awards, taking the mantle from his Senegal midfield partner, Pape Matar Sarr. And this guy a year ago was a cut above at the Under-20 Nations Cup. He was playing a different game at times from his opposition. We've seen at Metz, after moving to the French league, what he's capable of. I don't know if you remember that goal from inside his own half against Monaco. And it's at a time when Senegal really need fresh blood in that midfield. Idrissa Gana Gueye is aging, as is Nampalys Mendy, as is Cheikhou Kouyaté. And Lamine Camara, who can play in there alongside Pape Matar Sarr, is coming at an absolutely ideal time. And I think he could be a real star at this tournament. Also for Morocco, Amir Richardson, who plays for Reims in Liga. This guy is a remarkable deep line playmaker. He's 6'6", he's left-footed, he's creative, he's a presence. He's scored, I think, about 3 goals in Liga so far this season. He's the son of Michael Ray Robinson, the former NBA player. Could have played for USA, could have played for France. He's now playing for Morocco. And if he gets an opportunity in that stacked midfield, he could be a really eye-catching presence at this tournament.
Okay, Ed, what can we expect for the opening weekend, which begins with Ivory Coast against Guinea-Bissau?
I think for the heavyweights in action, particularly Ivory Coast, Egypt, it'll be a case of setting the tone. They're playing weaker opposition. It's a case of you get that first win under the belt. In the expanded AFCON, if you win one game, you're pretty much through to the knockouts. So I think for those teams, it'll be a case of setting the tone, demonstrating what they can do. Ivory Coast up against Guinea-Bissau in an opening game that could be a banana skin. Guinea-Bissau have qualified for the last 3 tournaments, but I don't think it will be. And obviously Nigeria opening the campaign this weekend, where I have a concern that things are going to be a little less straightforward for the Super Eagles during their group stage campaign. Indeed, beginning against Equatorial Guinea this weekend.
By the way, you had them 10th, Nigeria, in your rankings. Do you expect them to go deep in this competition? And if they do, would that be a surprise, despite the fact they have been international heavyweights for those of a certain vintage?
Listen, my heart is telling me that this is going to be the year when the Super Eagles finally pull it together. That amazing wealth of offensive talent. Victor Osimhen, the reigning CAF Player of the Year. He was 8th in the Ballon d'Or. This is going to be the year. However, my head, which has seen them recently draw with Lesotho, draw with Zimbabwe. They were defeated by Guinea in a pre-tournament qualifier, pre-tournament friendly, sorry. I just feel it's going to be more doom and gloom for the Super Eagles. They traded in Gernot Rohr, who was a manager who was tactically a bit limited, but just about squeezed out results, for a manager in Jose Peseiro, who is not very tactically limited and doesn't know how to squeeze out results. And they've got a midfield stacked with runners. They've got plenty of attacking talent, but they just are less than the sum of their parts. They struggle to pull it all together, and I'm worried it's going to be a very tough campaign for them. I hope I'm wrong.
Okay. Let's get predictions. LME, who's your AFCON winner this year?
I have the Ivory Coast, actually. I feel that there's still a lot of resentment for not making the World Cup in Russia and the last one as well. I think there's a lot of talent there, specifically Ousmane Diamond, who plays for Sporting CP, the center back. A lot of really big teams are looking at him. They have a nice, a spine, I think. Adingra from Brighton, I think he's going to light it up. And I think that finally that home support is going to live up to expectations. I wanted to pick Egypt, but I'm a little bit worried about a few things. I wonder if Mohamed Salah can continue his run. It's not just about Salah, of course. But I'm going with the Ivory Coast, Andy.
Egypt are the last team to win it back-to-back, 2008, 2010. Can
Most
Senegal...
successful, right, at AFCON?
Indeed, they are indeed. So can Senegal go back-to-back? Or are you sticking with your top 10 and number 1 in your power rankings for Morocco, Ed?
Listen, I think no one would respect me if before the tournament's even kicked off, I'm changing my prediction to win it. So I'm going to stick with Morocco for now.
Okay.
However, that being said, if things don't go to plan in the group stage, I might change my prediction. But with Morocco having Tanzania and Zambia to come, I think they will steadily pick up speed, pick up momentum, and they'll be a bit sharper when it really matters at the business
Now,
end.
Ed, they could meet Egypt in the quarterfinals, right? If things go the right way, meaning that it would be a repeat, and Egypt won that one. So whatever happens, they would have to face Egypt if Egypt do well as well.
Yeah, and it was Egypt who eliminated Morocco at the last Nations Cup when another one of my predictions fell by the wayside. I think 2 years ago, I think Egypt probably have the nous, they have the know-how to get through that knockout game. But I really believe that Morocco's experience in Qatar, experiencing those real blockbuster knockouts, will count in their favor when they come up against the likes of an Egypt, the likes of a Cameroon, the kind of teams who just know how to get to the latter stages of tournaments like this.
Okay, who do you have, MD?
I'm not going to predict a winner, but I'm going to go Nigeria to surprise people and get further. Maybe semi-final. I just think Osimhen, this is a tournament for him, and I don't know how much longer he'll be at his current club. I think this could add a lot of value onto his transfer fees. So Osimhen and Nigeria to do well. So that's what we've got. Ed, enjoy it, and we can keep in touch with you and up to date with all your things on Twitter, on social media, and on ESPN. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we move from AFCON to the Spanish Supercopa and El Clasico. It was Real Madrid getting the better of Atletico in the semi-final. A crazy game, finishing 5-3, and Barcelona in a repeat of their upcoming La Liga clash, getting the better of Osasuna. Delighted to say we can now welcome in Sam Marsden ahead of this one. And the way that this new kind of 4-team Supercopa has been set up, the TV execs are really hoping for Real Madrid against Barcelona. And they've got that. And it's live on ABC and ESPN Plus on Sunday. Real Madrid favourites going into this one, Sam?
Yeah, Real Madrid are favourites there. They're 7 points clear of Barcelona in the Liga. Both teams have had injury problems this season, but Madrid have sort of weathered them better. Bellingham has probably been the standout player in the Liga, with notable exception of a few other clubs, Girona, for example. But yeah, Real Madrid go into the tie as favourites. Barcelona haven't been playing well even when winning. They've had a lot of criticism for their performances, especially before Christmas. Defeats to Girona, a draw at Valencia. They only just about beat Almeria, who haven't won a game in the Liga this season, at home 3-2. So there's been a lot of criticism for Xavi for the way they're playing, and results have sort of been hot and cold as well. So yeah, Madrid go into the game as favourites, but there is some hope for Barcelona. They looked a little bit more solid against Osasuna in the semi-final on Thursday. They've now won 4 games in a row. Admittedly, one of those was against Almeria, another one was against 4th Division Barbastro. But they can sort of sell that as gathering a little bit of momentum. And it's a Clasico, I can never predict a Clasico. Sometimes when you think a team is at their worst moment, they go and win a Clasico by 3 or 4 goals.
Indeed. Xavi, you mentioned him. Maybe under a little bit of pressure, some of the recent performances, but Real Madrid usually bring the best out of Barcelona. If you remember as well, the first half of El Clasico earlier this season, Barcelona were outstanding before eventually losing at Montjuic. And Xavi was speaking after the game against Osasuna that secured their spot in the Supercopa final.
En general, crec que no hem fet un partit brillant, però hem fet un partit sèrio, sobri, i en molts moments l'equip ha estat bé. En pilota avui era difícil. Era difícil generar, ells amb aquella línia de 5 i anar saltant als centrals doncs és complicat, havíem d'atacar espais en el moment just. Bé, hem generat, no tantes com habitual, però en general hem fet un partit sèrio, sobri i merescut d'estar a la final. Per tant, content, satisfet, i això ens donarà moral i confiança pel diumenge. Crec que el Madrid arriba millor que l'any passat. Ahir els vaig veure molt forts, també a l'Atlètic de Madrid, va ser un gran partit. Però bé, intentarem dominar-lo, portar-lo al nostre terreny, jugar de tu a tu. Bé, no canviarem massa, buscarem la nostra personalitat per guanyar la final el diumenge, no?
Interesting there. We will try to play our game. We will not change, but we will try to dominate, he said. LME, is that doable for Barcelona? Sam set it out nicely. The way they're playing right now isn't great. So do they have it in them to be able to dominate in certain parts of this game?
Yeah, they definitely do. And a major factor is the return of Pedri, who came back at some point in that game. He is so important for that philosophy. And Xavi is exactly right. They have to play that game for a few reasons as well. The Madrid derby that was the game before that was such a high-octane, fantastic campaign for La Liga, so many goals, but it also was an absolute marathon of a match, meaning that there's some tired legs. Fede Valverde is just about to make this game. For example, that surely Real Madrid players are going to be up for this game, but at the same time, if Barcelona can maintain the possession and at least control the game from a narrative perspective, then they can do it. But Pedri is so important for this because he is the architect. It's Gavi when he's fit, and then Pedri's number one for me. He is so important in making sure that Barcelona control that rhythm. Because just like the Clasico before that Sam was talking about, Barcelona were looking good in that game, and then Jude Bellingham happened. So here they have to make sure that they try and control this game from a possession perspective from minute 1 to the 90th minute. It's going to be a great game, I think, another great marketing campaign for La Liga. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait to see it. But, Pedri is very important here.
Sam, as someone that lives and works in Spain, what's the build-up been like? And granted, this is the first day of the build-up because Barcelona secured their spot in the final last night. Real Madrid beating Atleti the night before. But it is the Supercopa, but it's Real Madrid against Barcelona. So it's not a title decider, but the under-10s of the two sides could meet and it would still get a lot of press. So what's the build-up been like so far? And what do you expect ahead of kickoff in Saudi Arabia on Sunday?
Yeah, there are a lot of things to dislike about the change to the mid-season 14 format, but you have to say it has kind of added an extra impetus to the way it sort of drops in January. I mean, Xavi spoke last year. Obviously, we had a Clasico final last year in Saudi Arabia, and Xavi spoke about the importance of how that game sort of gave his team the belief to go on and win the title. They obviously played really well. They beat Real Madrid 3-1, and he talks about that a lot, about the importance and the significance of winning that game, winning the trophy, and the performance and how that sort of laid the foundations for going on to win the league. So it's built up as quite a big sort of tournament at the time. I mean, no one will really talk about it in a few months when we're talking about, the league and Champions League and whatnot. But at the time, it does feel like it carries more significance than it did pre-season. Certainly for Barcelona, who tend to sort of veer from sort of one extreme to the other much more than Real Madrid, and winning the trophy can be used as such a sort of thing to say, look, we're in a good place, we're moving in the right direction. Whereas in contrast, obviously, a defeat, especially a bad defeat, can be used to sort of, really confirm what we've been seeing over the last couple of months and set off all the alarm bells. So it certainly feels sort of big for Barca. There's a little bit more stability at Real Madrid with Ancelotti, with what they've won recently. But yeah, I mean, we're just getting to the build-up now, so we'll see how things go. It's a lot very tactical and stuff. Whether Barca could switch to a midfield 4, because if they go with a front 3, that often favours Real Madrid if it's going end to end. Whereas as Luis says, the return of Pedri could see a switch to a midfield 4. Rafinha is going to miss the game with a hamstring injury. He got injured against Osasuna, which could make it easy for Xavi to go with that 4-man midfield, as he did in the final last year when Barca did exert control over Real Madrid.
Prediction time. What do we got? We'll start with you, Sam. What do you reckon for Sunday's game?
Like I said before, I just don't know. I've been looking through. There've been 8 Clásicos since Xavi came in. They've all been against Ancelotti. There've been 4-0 wins for Barca. There've been 4-0 wins for Madrid, and they both come at times when you would have said before the game, look, Barca are in a bad way. Madrid are soaring to the title. They're going to win. And then likewise, Barca would clear into the title. Last year, they had Madrid in the Copa del Rey at home with a 1-0 advantage, and they lost 4-0. So it's just really hard. So I'm going to sort of go away from logic, and I just think with Barca, it feels like they put a little bit more impetus on it. Like last year, they're perhaps a little bit more sort of up for it's probably not the right word, but it feels like a bigger thing for them. And perhaps because of that, they're slightly edgy. But I think it'll be close. We could have extra time, but I think maybe Barca in normal time in an entertaining game, like we saw with the Madrid Atletico game. I think even though it's a Clasico, even though they're both on a win, they do play a little bit more with the handbrakes off in these Super Cup games.
LME, what you got for us?
Well, Deco said it himself. A win could be a turning point for Barcelona. I don't know how much of an important factor that is, but he said it, and it points to what Sam was talking about, how important Xavi and Barca see this game. But a few things, and specifically reading from the great work that Sam has been doing, highlights to me that I'm not so sure if it's going to be that easy for Barca, because that game against Osasuna was the first time since September 21st where they won by more than 1 goal. That's 20 matches. And meanwhile, Real Madrid have not lost in any game since September. And just like Sam said, you can't really talk about logic when it comes to El Clásico, no matter if it's in Saudi Arabia, Madrid, or Barcelona. So I'm going to give this one to Real Madrid. And I think Jude Bellingham, once again, is going to annoy a few Barca fans. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Real Madrid regular time. Okay, and I've got the casting vote, and all I'm going to say is I think it's going to go in penalties, and I think that the programming that's scheduled on ABC in the United States on Sunday will be delayed because of extra time and spot kicks. Sunday, 1:30 Eastern on ABC and ESPN+, the Supercopa, Real Madrid against Barcelona. And before we go today, those two are certainly in the title race, especially Real Madrid, who are 7 clear of Barcelona. However, Sam, I've just recently, over the last couple of days, got my voice back after commentating on Girona against Atletico Madrid a couple of weeks ago. And you know what? It's one of the most incredible games because you never wanted it to stop. You didn't want the halftime whistle. You wondered what was going to happen. It could have been 7-7. And you've been delving into Girona's season, and they are in the title race as well. And I think I'm right in saying they're 20 points clear of the last team that isn't in Europe before the next team is. So is it as easy as saying to you what's the secret of their success and you giving me a 20-second answer? Because I don't think it is.
I think if I could give you the secret to their success in 20 seconds, I'd be employed by a lot of sort of mid-range, lower-range, top-flight football clubs.
That's 10 seconds.
Combination of things coming together. I think Michel is doing a great job coaching. The recruitment has been good. They've got a good mix of players that play the way he wants to play. I mean, I guess there's an element of overperforming in there as well. They're overperforming their XG much more than Barca are underperforming theirs. Little things like that make a difference throughout the course of the season. But they're just on a roll now where you get that sort of momentum, and it can't really be explained by anything. Everyone at the club is buying into it. The subs are happy with their roles coming on and giving everything. So it's just one of those things at the moment. And yeah, they're great to watch, the way they play, the way they sort of believe and fight until the last minute. You mentioned that Atletico game, but the home game, not the one before that, but just before that against Valencia, was also a late win, a 2-1 win, 2 late goals from Christian Stuani. If you could put it down in words, then a lot of people would buy it. Yeah, but it's great fun to watch.
Yeah, there's elements of Leicester about it. There's also elements of a shadow of a Grim Reaper appearing behind you as your screen froze, and then you returned and it was gone.
Yeah. That's my daughter. She's come in. One of those famous sort of YouTube moments, isn't it? And those the BBC News one where the kids calling in at the back corner.
Yeah, you've got a name checker, and let's see if she can just say, there we go.
Yeah, she's here, Luna, yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So, Girona, Leicester, no one thought possible, and it happened. We keep thinking Real Madrid are going to pull away. We keep thinking Barca are going to narrow the gap. But can you see this continuing? Because their coach said he doesn't think they can get the points required in the second half of the season that they got in the first half of the season. But he's got to talk them down, has he not?
Yeah, I mean they've changed the narrative, haven't they? Michel is now saying, look, Europe is the objective. He's not yet gone to Champions League. He says, let's get to week 28, 29, and if we're still up there, then we talk about Champions League, La Liga. I think Champions League has to be the realistic objective. Now, I think you can always take what they're saying in public and maybe add a little bit on to what they're thinking privately. I don't think they think yet we can definitely or really sort of push Real Madrid and maintain this level of points until the end of the season. But yeah, Champions League has to be a massive goal now, and they've got. I guess the problem they've got is that Athletic Bilbao have also come good and are on a really good run. They're still 10 points back from Girona, but that makes a sort of an added problem because you've got Barca, Madrid, and Atletico, who you would presume will definitely make the top 4, and then Athletic could perhaps get close to them if they dip off and Athletic keep going. But no, Champions League is a very realistic possibility, and yeah, I think all neutrals must hope that they can keep going. I mean, I keep setting little targets to say, like, if they win at Barcelona, then wow, they're really in the title race. If they then beat Atletico Madrid at home, then definitely they're in the title race. And then in February, they've got coming up Real Sociedad at home, and then a trip to Real Madrid. So it's just kind of to go back to the typical Spanish saying, but game by game, every game they win, you think a little bit more. Yeah, they're really got a chance there.
But Sam, I believe the L word has been banned, right? Nobody really is allowed to really talk about Leicester City right now. Like you said, it's match by match all the time. And by the way, getting a Champions League spot, MD, is incredible. People need to understand just how amazing this journey is for Girona right now this season. And I actually think it would be bigger than Leicester City if they won the title, because the unbalance in La Liga from the very top to the bottom is far, far greater than it is in the Premier League, even in that amazing season when Leicester City did what they did. So this is an amazing story. I really beg for everybody to read all of Sam's content, specifically on Girona, because it's an amazing story. And Michel is an amazing manager with a great background as well.
Maybe with the Champions League money, they could get a roof for Montilivi, keep everybody dry.
Nah, they're in Costa Brava. They're fine, I think.
Exactly. It doesn't rain much. That's when all the Brits go for a bit of fun. To everyone who's been a part of this today, thank you. And Sam as well. What is it now? Nearly 6:50 local time in Europe. So a bit of twinkle, twinkle, little star for Luna.
Yeah, she's not going anywhere. She's in trouble when this finishes.
Can we say bye-bye to her as well? Because that's only fair.
You can say bye-bye to Luna, yeah.
Right,
bye, Luna.
Yay! Bye, Luna. And thanks.
Luna, Girona winning La Liga.
Will Girona win La Liga?
Oh, no, it's not
too shy now. Too shy now.
She whispered it to you.
That's and then she'll not shut up about it.
She whispered Aitana Bonmati.
Perfect.
It's her favourite player. Fantastic. Thank you to Luna, to Sam, to Ed, to Rob, to LME, and to me as well. And remember, you've only got about 40 minutes left. Get that captain's armband on John McGinn if you play Fantasy Premier League. ESPN FC Live, back next week. And remember, Premier League action this weekend, full coverage, right here on the ESPN FC social channels. Bye for now.